Welcome to the HIT podcast, H.I.T, Human Resources, Insurance, and Technology. I'm your host, Toby Kennedy. As we do every week, I am dropping into your feed on Tuesdays with what I hope are bite-sized, digestible, well-curated conversations going on in the space. Today's episode will be no exception. I'm very excited to bring my guest in. This week's episode is brought to you by Montage Insurance Solutions. And without any further ado, I bring in Kim. Kim, how are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure being here.
Right on. So maybe before we get started, if you don't mind giving the audience the kind of quick tour, who's Kim? How do you find yourself in the chair today?
I am Kimberly Carleson. I'm from Little Rock, Arkansas. I went to the University of Arkansas, got a degree in public health, and then UAMS got a degree in radiologic technology. I am the CEO of US Beacon. We are a medical claims integrity review company. We take medical claims, prepayment, post-adjudication. We look over them, we eliminate all ineligible charges and hand them back to be paid. So we save money for plans, which is very important.
Yeah. I mean, listen, to be honest with you, yeah, because it's like as much downward pressure as I can put on costs means less deductions out of employees' paychecks or more affordable deductibles, anything we can do to make plans more affordable. And I think maybe to kind of help us focus, you specifically work in a space where you say, hey, if you're a self-insured healthcare plan, right? And when you're self-funded, what that means very, very basically is instead of giving the insurance company a high premium to transfer the risk and the claims onto the insurance company, you are lowering your costs. So maybe you have some, administrative and some fixed costs. Sure, maybe some stop loss, reinsurance kind of baked in there. But overall, your cost as an employer now is the claims. So as your employees go to the doctor, fill a prescription, et cetera, you own those claims. Mr. and Mrs. Employer that's in the self-funded space, enter Kim and her company.
Correct. So once we get your claims, we find out if we get an itemized bill, a UBO4. We find out if it's in network or out of network, because that's important when you're pricing the claims. If it's in network, we review it. We find all ineligible charges. When I say ineligible charges, you have a CPT code for a surgery that is already, all the supplies for the surgery are already bundled in that CPT code. Well, when you get an itemized statement, you start realizing that all of those have been separately charged sometimes, probably because of miscommunication between the coders and the hospitals. I think they get busy and just however it happens, it's there. We eliminate it. You pay only what you legally and rightfully owe, and the hospital gets paid what they legally and rightfully need to be paid.
Yeah, I think that's what I really like about, the space that you're in. And, we've had some conversations leading up to today, and that's why I'm so excited to have you on, because when we were talking about this, you're sort of saying, listen, Toby, any self-insured plan out there, you might think the carrier or perhaps the TPA is looking at this stuff, but you guys make for a great addition to that ecosystem. And talk to me a little bit about your success.
So we have been doing claims. We started in 1995 with workers' comp. My husband and I bought over the company in 2013, and we really started focusing in on medical claims. Well, once the CAA passed, that helped us get more our hands on the actual claims data.
Because the CAA is a transparency law for hospitals and providers, where they have to now provide information in machine readable formats.
Correct. So we were able to get the itemized bill. Typically, your carrier is paying on a UBO4, which is like a receipt. It doesn't itemize each of those, break those CPT codes out. So we get the itemized statement, and that's where we find a lot of our stuff. And since we've been in business, we have found one clean claim that did not have any errors.
How many claims have you guys looked at?
Hundreds of thousands.
You've looked at hundreds of thousands of claims, and with literally just one exception, every other one of those hundreds of thousands of claims has had at least something on there that the employer should not be paying.
Should not have paid, even if it's down to acetaminophen that was supposed to be within the hospital room when you bill for that.
Yeah.
Nursing services are to be billed within the hospital when you're staying in the hospital, overnight stay. So there's just so much that goes into it. We have over 17 million laws or rules via CMS that are built into our software. So we catch everything. Once we run it through our software, then we have a doctor's eyes or a nurse's eyes, depending on the case. If it's a really tough case, we'll get contract out a certain doctor that needs to look over that specific case. But we have them look over it and then make sure that medical necessity, everything is right before we turn it back over to the plan or carrier to be paid.
Sure. So again, with exceedingly rare exception, almost every claim you guys look at has something on there that you're able to save the employer. What type of savings do you guys have? Averages or approximately what
We
are
do.
employers looking at?
We do. Not every one of them, but most of the time it's 30 to 40% on in-network. Out of network, we're 70% and above. Out of network, we will reprice. We don't really reference-based price. We fair market price. So we look at the surrounding areas. Let's say I had a claim that they were charging $12,000 a night for a semi-private room. Well, we all know that a semi-private room probably shouldn't go for $12,000 a night. So unless you're at the Ritz on a yacht in the middle of the ocean, but so we reprice that with the surrounding hospitals to put a fair market price on it.
So when you're finding 20 to 30, sometimes 70% of a bill that's ineligible and you go, nope, don't pay that, right? These hospitals must be getting a much lower amount than they would have thought. Talk to me about how much, bucking up with the hospital. How many times did they, complain? Well, not complain, but formally complain.
Right. So, it's interesting because our appeals rate is 1/4 of 1%. And we've never lost an appeal just because we go by the CMS guidelines. We go by what is the written law in order to code or bill a plan. So we work with the hospitals. We send them back. If they send us an appeal, we send back the exact chapter, page number that you cannot separately bill this charge. So what do they have to say to that once they see that? So
I thought that number was astounding. Astounding. Mm-hmm. You're saying that less than 1/4 of 1% of the time where you guys say, we don't think the bill is X, we think the bill is Y. Less than 1/4 of 1% of the time they appeal. They go, no, you're wrong. It should be. And you've never lost an appeal.
Correct. That's correct. Now, if there was someone, let's say in that plan that was on the board of that hospital and did not want to ruffle feathers, we work out something. But other than that, it's not because of what we've done. It's because, you know how that goes.
So talk to me then, if I'm a plan sponsor or even, an insurance consultant that didn't know about you guys, I'm trying to put you in front of my client. Walk me through like the journey. Like, okay, so, hey, you guys are a phenomenal fit for absolutely any self-funded case. You guys find a bunch of billing that's bogus and you get very, 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 very little pushback. So awesome. Let's introduce Kim, Beacon, the whole 9 yards. What does that look like?
So when we are introduced, we typically like to do a proof of concept. We take 4 to 6 of your post-paid claims just to see how the plan's working. So we review those. We get the itemized bill, the UBO4, and the EOB, review it, and show you what you could have saved. On average, you can tell by our record, we've only found one claim, that was clean, that pretty much you've overpaid all along. So from that moment forward, we can give you some plan language to put in your documents to say, hey, we've got this proof of concept. We see that you guys are not having the time to look over all of every single claim the way we want it. So we're going to input this document. US Beacon will hook up anyway via any electronic connection. No cost to the plan. We pay for all of that. We hook up anything that's 10,000. You can set a threshold. most of the time it's 10,000 or above. We suspend that. They send it to us. Within 24 to 72 hours, we have it back to the TPA to be paid
Yeah.
correctly.
So it's not a ton of work on the HR department, for example.
No, it is really no work. A lot of times when we have carriers or someone try to back up, they say it's too much work on their administration. It's not. It's an electronic connection that you
Yeah.
just send something through. So, and it's back to them within 24 to 72 hours.
Are there any carriers or TPAs that push back or really say, hey, we don't like this?
Well, yes. What do you think?
I think they do.
Is that a question? My advice is sometimes that maybe an independent TPA with renting a network is your best way to go when you're going to want to save money on a self-insured plan.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times your bigger carriers do not, they have their own review service in place, and sometimes it's not for the benefit of the plan.
Right.
Say that nicely. I don't want to bash anyone
No,
here,
but
but
I want to kind of get in front of what might be someone's trepidation, because you're sort of like, look, the bottom line is they probably don't want you to do this because, as you
no,
said,
they
they
don't.
have their own process. But when you guys run concurrent with those, you find a lot that was missing, and it's the right of the plan sponsor to be able to have their claims reviewed.
And here's the deal. They have signed to where they have to allow the plan to see all these bills. So they cannot say no anymore.
Yeah.
They will, they do. They'll tell you can't have your data. Still, they do that till this day. But if you really want to save money, you are in control of your plan.
Yeah.
You're in control of your data. You're in control of your bills. You're in control of the money that goes out. And so you should be able to suspend those bills, claims, and send them over, even if you don't even involve our name.
Yeah.
White label it, send it over. Let us review it. Let us clean it up. Let you not pay a penny more than you should not pay, and
Yeah.
send it back, and then let them pay. And when we have independent TPAs that are renting a network, we have no pushback from the carrier that is involved in the network.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they know that that's ineligible. You can't charge sterilization 25 times in a surgery because it comes with the surgery, So
Yeah.
that's it's just black and white.
Yeah. Speaking of kind of payments and costs, how do you guys get paid?
So if we find savings, if we don't find savings, we make zero. But if we find savings, we make 25% of the realized savings, the actual savings you're going to pay. So it's 25%.
Yeah, and can you unpack when you say realize, because I think that's important for people to understand.
Right. So like I said earlier, if you have someone that you have a hospital that's done you great, been great to you and your plan and your members forever, they represent the town or whatever, just a very big hospital, and they say, no, we want to pay them, let's say we found 100,000 and we just want to make it 50,000 because we don't want to do them wrong, or anyway, we want to keep them on our good side. Then if we found 100,000, if you pay 50,000, all you're going to owe is on the 50,000 you pay.
Yeah.
Or if your carrier has a discount, you're just going to owe on what the discounted rate was of the savings.
Yeah, that's awesome. Curious too, when you're talking about $100,000, that sounds like a big number, but I don't know. I mean, if you find those regularly, do you have like a success story or something that kind of jumps out as like, hey, Toby, we've found some stuff?
Hey, we got a lot of stuff, but yes, I have one of them that pops up in my mind because it was recent. We had and also because my husband's on the transplant list, but we had a lung transplant, and the bill was of $1.5 million. They sent it to us. We looked over the bill. For the deceased lung, they were charging $676,000. For a deceased lung, you cannot charge that amount. You can charge $56,000, I think is the amount. Don't quote me on that, but it's in the 50,000 range.
Yeah.
We got the bill down after reviewing it to $290,000.
From 1.5 million?
From 1.5 million. but the plan had signed a contract, a
Yeah.
single case agreement. And so they had signed to where that we could review the bill, but that they would pay to an minimum of 400,000. So they ended up, had they not signed that contract, they would have just paid 290,000, but they signed it and they had to pay like 400,000.
Yeah, but they
But
saved
from
1.1
1.5 million,
million
right,
dollars.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's how big it
That's
can get. And
amazing.
that's how much can go into when you have a big surgery like that, when you have a big stay like that. So much is added in that should not be added in, that is extra, that's in that one CPT code for an overnight stay. So
Yeah.
it's just, that's why it's so important to get an itemized statement. An itemized statement tells every single thing. It's like when you go to the grocery store, do you get your receipt or do you just sign off on a credit card and not get the items that you bought,
Yeah.
right? So you
Yeah.
want every item that you bought on there so you can see how much you paid and if everything's in there. So that's
Yeah.
why I think our work is so important, because most of the time carriers are just getting that UBO4, which is that credit card signature.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, and I know that, in some cases it might have hit a stop loss if they bought, an individual or a specific stop loss, or, even if it gets big enough to perform in the aggregate,
Right.
but you still want to keep claims off of your stop loss as well.
Right. And that's what we try to do, is we keep it off the stop loss.
Yeah.
You don't want, also, it's your fiduciary responsibility to pay only what is legally owed. And that just keeps you from these lawsuits that are popping up. It keeps you clean and you're doing something about it. As long as they see you doing something about it or trying to do something about it. Because when
Yeah.
you've got a carrier saying that they're the TPA, the carrier, and they're the bill review, that's not benefiting the plan, I can assure
Yeah.
you. So I mean,
Yeah, so it's the Fox Police in the hen house or whatever it
right,
is, right?
exactly. That's exactly it. So it's just very important to ensure. And a lot of times these bill review companies, they're owned. Follow the money trail, follow who owns them, because they are not independently owned, which we are independently owned. We have no private equity, no stockholders. And I think that is super important when you get an independent third party review. A lot of them
I
are owned
agree, and
by carriers
right, right.
in the
And you touched on
hiding,
a moment
right?
ago. I'm sorry, you touched on a moment ago fiduciary responsibility, and I kind of don't want to move past that without putting a little bit of a pin in it, because the plan sponsors, the HR team, the CFOs, like they literally have a diligence.
Exactly. They are pulling in these lawsuits, they are not only pulling in the plan sponsor, they're pulling in the CEO, CFO, everyone, the HR, whoever it is, they're pulling them in that's involved in the benefits, employees'
Right.
benefits. So the plan that's spending the money, that's approving the money, that, so if you are, it's funny to me that CEOs will say, well, my benefits director takes care of that. Well, when you're the CEO, you better watch every single line. When your second largest line item is benefits, you should be watching that spend.
Yeah.
What
Yeah. It's typically
business,
right behind payroll,
well, what business runs like this? What, name a business besides healthcare that runs this way? There's
where you
no
get to
one.
charge people and not tell them what you're charging them for.
Right, exactly. Let me just go in and, I mean, who gets paid like that?
Yeah.
Nobody. So it's
Right.
just amazing to me that it's not uh taken care of more, why it's not thought of more, why
Yeah.
people just allow and believe that, believe this person that's making money off of you. I mean, I hate it,
Yeah.
but we live in this world right now. And just like I think I posted yesterday, because I shared it from an ERISA attorney, that even the broker's contracts, you're allowed, my contract, the bill review company's contract, you should be allowed to see every single contract that goes into your plan. And you need to look those over and see who's benefiting from what.
Oh yeah. Well, it is required, and we do indeed have to tell our clients on our end, and it's why, I guess, to maybe be a little transparent to the listener, you and I have no financial relationship. You're not paying. This is not a
No,
paid
no.
segment. This is just me giving you time and light, because I'm right there with you. I believe in people being able to know services like you are out there. So I guess that's a decent segue. You talked about posting. I assume you're talking about LinkedIn. How do people get a hold of you if they're interested?
If they're interested, we have we're updating our website right now, but I believe it's still up. But we have a get in touch with us or whatever you put at the bottom.
Yeah.
The engineers did that. So anyway, the website designers. So, and then also I'm on LinkedIn. You
Yeah.
can DM me. I get back to people really fast. I've gotten a lot of contacts through LinkedIn. It's been a
Yeah.
great resource for connecting with people.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. That's how we met originally as well. You're kind of posting, some of your organization, your success stories, and I'm like, wow, that's fascinating. And as we dive in, deeper in many conversations and chat with each other, it's like, I would love for people to really kind of hear what great work you're doing because you're doing great work out there.
I really appreciate it. And it's people like you that want to do the right thing that are going to make this change in healthcare. This landscape is going to change. We pray that it is because but more people like you, more people knowing the right thing to do and wanting to do the right thing, that's how it's going to change for their plan.
Well, God bless you, and thank you to Montage and Danan for giving us this format. Our sponsors, TrueHue, Rula, Excel Health, right, keeping the lights on, allowing Kim and us to have some great conversations. That's all the time we have this week here on the episode. Thank you so much for joining us. Join us next week. Join us every week, and until next week, make this the best week yet.
There seems to be a suspicious vision in every little decision that's made already.